I have a confession to make. I've been training for years while completely ignoring this one critical aspect of rep speed. If your progress has been going slowly, you've been struggling to add weight or increase intensity each session, I've got news for you. It might be high time to take a look at your tempo. This commonly overlooked training variable can have a large impact on what you give and get out of each rep. Slowing down the cadence, even just slightly, will change the stimulus on your body and can help you break through plateaus in strength and hypertrophy, as it has done for me. But more on that later. First, I want to add a caveat. I do think fast tempos can have their purpose. For example, using very light weights and doing reps for maximum speed is a good way to practice rate of force development, or in other words, being able to push hard fast. Also, for demonstrating or testing max strength, you definitely want to try to complete the lift as fast as possible, giving the rep maximum effort from the very beginning. So fast reps definitely do have their place. However, I fell into the trap of constantly seeking performance in my workouts rather than seeking effective training stimulus. As I was adding weight to my pull-ups, I would subconsciously speed up the reps gradually. This allowed seemingly rapid progression, but over time my reps got very, very fast. In my case, I really failed to feel the pull-up movement in my lats, which ought to be the heavy lifter in this exercise. I also aggravated my elbows, which I believe is partly due to an overly fast tempo, rushing through the movement using momentum rather than actual muscular control. Again, there's a time and a place for reps like these, but I think they're better off used sparingly in order to test and display strength rather than to train for it. Now enter my current training program. It's a high-intensity, heavy-duty program inspired by Mike Mentzer, the OG of this style of training, specifically for bodybuilding application. One of the salient features of the program is a focus on rep tempo. Mike recommended slowing down the concentric rep as slow as necessary to avoid utilizing momentum to complete the repetition.
It's very important that you initiate all your movements very deliberately, slowly, under control. Once the speed of an exercise exceeds a certain rate, momentum takes over. And what happens to muscular involvement? It's reduced, it's diminished.
In other words, you don't need to count out a specific time, or just go slow enough that you have to actively push or pull through the entire range of motion rather than floating through it with momentum generated earlier in the rep. I was already familiar with isometric pauses and doing slow, controlled eccentrics, but never before had I really focused on using strength through the entire range of the concentric. The difference in tempo is very subtle. You can really only see it when I slow down the footage because it doesn't actually amount to much actual time, but rather you know it by the feeling. Focusing on completing each concentric rep with control feels amazing. You'll have to try it to believe it. Here are a few of the changes I've noticed from training this way. First of all, this tempo changes the feeling of the set itself. After completing a set to failure like this, my muscles feel really alive and worked. Whereas sometimes before, especially on pull-ups, I would just fail the last rep and not really know why. It would be over quickly and I wouldn't feel like I had really battled it out. There was just suddenly nothing left and then I was giving up. After just 2 sessions of training like this, I feel that on my last few reps, I'm able to try quite a bit harder and really give each rep my all. No matter where my sticking point is, I can keep grinding and at least get a solid isometric pause and often even inch across the finish line for one final rep. Secondly, I'm feeling DOMs for days in the lats and pecs where I'd rarely feel it before. Quite simply, I feel my technique and muscle activation is leveling up. Finally, I'm progressing quickly, adding 1 to 2 kilograms each session for sets of 10 to 12 reps without feeling any elbow pain. Each time I've tried to train pull-ups heavily in the past, I've had to manage golfer's elbow symptoms along the way. It's too early to say if this is the silver bullet for me, but so far I've been able to increase the load faster than ever before and with 0 elbow pain. So I'm very encouraged to continue and see where this takes me. So that's it for today. If any of these ideas resonate with you, give them a try in your next workout. See if it changes anything for you, and if so, it might be worth incorporating thoughtful tempo changes in your program for the long term. If you want more content like this, please subscribe to see how I progress, and feel free to ask any questions in the comments. Train hard and recover harder.